Welcome to the Resolute Warrior Podcast by Resolute Men Ministries, where we equip men to activate a life of authentic character. A resolute warrior is purposefully minded, steadfast in character, a man who walks in humility with an unshakable faith. We interview men who are having an impact in the Christian arena, as well as discussing topics related to men from a biblical perspective. It's about real life with real challenges with real men. And now to today's podcast.
I'm very excited to have my good friend, Darrell, Coach D. Andrews. Darrell is an entrepreneur. He runs a business where he speaks to schools, to students, to businesses. Yeah. I tell you, this guy is a game changer when it comes to helping businesses flourish and understand their purpose and their calling. But more importantly, brother, we're just gonna wing it today because just as we talked before we started recording, you know what I mean? Let's just keep it real. We're good friends. So I think your bio will come out as we dive into the questions today, man. So thank you for being part of the Resolute Warrior podcast today.
Yeah, I just want to say, man, right on the onset, how proud I am of you. You know, people who are listening to the podcast and, part of Rob's work, this guy is one of the most diligent, consistent, hardworking, God-fearing men I've ever met, man. And his love for manhood and men is and the work that we're trying to do to help lives and when it comes to marriages and relationships, and it's second to none, man. And today we men need this. we need to feel encouraged. We need to know that God loves us, and because the world is coming from so many different angles. So I just want to honor you, man. I know you're here to interview me, but I want to honor you for your commitment to this, man, because, I know the behind the scenes stuff. I've watched you put your hands to the plow for a long time, and to see you have this podcast, to see the work of the ministry, I'm just honored, man. So kudos to you. And it's a pleasure. I'm honored to be interviewed, man. I mean, it really is, because I know the heart behind this. I know that this is truly God ordained, God inspired. And to contribute to this, to me, is a blessing. So thank you for having me on, brother. I really appreciate it.
You know what? When I started this podcast, you were the first name that came up. I mean, and it took us a little bit of time to get this going. I appreciate the kind words, but I'll be honest with you, I couldn't done half of what I did without you. We'll get into some things. I'm sure it'll come out. We've done conferences together. We've done workshops together. But more importantly, man, we've done life on life together.
Yes.
Whether it be through the phone or we've had meals together, our families got together, man. So I truly see you more than just a friend, but a brother to me. Yeah. So, and it's an honor to have you on, my friend.
Oh, it's an honor to be here. Honored to be here. No doubt about it. Yes.
So we're going to have a little fun in the beginning, Darrell. What I do is I call this the triple play round, and I know you'll enjoy this, man. So it's just a lighter side of getting to know the guests that come on here. So you ready for it?
Yes, I am.
All right, man. So what's your favorite places of all places you've ever traveled?
The favorite place of all places I've ever traveled is a place called Christ Church in the Cayman Islands. And I had a chance to go down there and speak to the Society of Human Resources in the Cayman Islands. And I'm a beach guy, man. I love, give me a green, blue beach and I can almost become a beach bum, man, grow a beard and just live there,
I got you, man. I could too.
But yeah, man, I mean, but when I flew in that place, it's just beautiful. The people are good spirited. The spirit of the Lord is very strong over there. But selfishly, they have one of the most beautiful beaches I've ever seen in my life. I got to tell you a quick funny story about that place too. So I was speaking to the HR group there, man, and but I had a day in between, so I had time off, which is always great when you go into an island. So I had a test. I said I'm going to go snorkeling, and so I put my mask on, man. I went snorkeling. Water's green; you can see it from miles straight out, and I'm snorkeling and having a good time. And they told us that there are barracudas in there, but you don't see them that much and all. So I'm snorkeling, I'm looking at all the beautiful fish and all the different artifacts that's still in the ocean and all. And Rob, I turned to my right and there was a 6-foot barracuda staring me right in my face. And I always jokingly tell people, you know, if there's any way you ever heard of people shout the name of Jesus underwater,
You were that guy, huh?
man, I shout Jesus, and I turned around. I don't know how I ran underwater, but I did. And so here's the funny part. So I get back, and I'm like, my breath, my heart, and everything. And so I said, boy, that'd be a great opener to my speech. So I did my speech the next day, and I talked about this situation. And the guy that invited me in was in the back of the room, and he hollered real loud. He said, and I was talking about how fearful I was. And he said, don't worry, Coach D. They don't like Delaware meat.
Boy, that's mean, man.
That's mean.
I'm telling you.
They don't like Delaware meat, man. That's how you kidding me. So, but anyway, that's a long version of a story. But I love Christchurch. Now there's a lot of other places. Like I've been to Nairobi, Kenya, which is just one of my favorite places where we do a lot of ministry over there. But yeah, that's my spot.
I can see why, man. And I'm like you, my friend. I love the beach.
Yeah,
me the right beach, though. You know what I mean? Don't put me in the Ocean City crowd.
No, I'm not that. That's not me.
You know, on that beach where it's out. You know.
Yeah, me too.
And
I like the nice powdery sand, not the dirty stuff.
And,
yeah.
You know, we want to be all spaced out away from each other, especially with all that's going on right now with this
man.
stuff, right?
Yeah.
So if you could eliminate one thing from your daily routine, what would that be and why?
I could eliminate one thing from my daily routine. What would that be and why? Now that's a tough question, man, because I kind of like my routine. I'll tell you something, man. I don't know if I want to eliminate that.
Or say minimize it. Maybe there's something you spend too much time on. It doesn't need to be a bad thing. It could be even a good thing.
Yeah. I don't know, man. I guess minimize. What would I want to minimize? I'm not gonna say I work hard. You know what I mean? I do work hard, and I put a lot of time in. So maybe I can minimize my time a little bit more and kind of decompress and just kind of just go with the flow of life and all. Because I'm the kind of person, when I put my hands to the plow, I want to do it. I want to do it right. I want to get it done. I want to make sure it's done with excellence and all of that. So, but I'll say this. This is kind of a connect to that statement. I've been doing it because being home has been such a blessing.
Yeah.
Like I don't travel, I'm not on airplanes all the time. I used to live on airplanes. Like every other day I was on the flight. That's the way it used to be. So now I'm home and I'm spending more time with the kids and with my wife. It's definitely impacted our relationship in a very positive way. And so that's the one thing I would probably minimize just a little bit. It's not a bad thing because I'm not a workaholic in a sense, that I'm working to 12 o'clock at midnight, but I could probably can minimize it just a little bit.
I got you. And I think we're going to get more into this, but I think just because I know you, I know a lot of people out there don't know you, but I know you.
Yeah.
I think you've already eliminated.
Yeah.
Not in your control, but control of COVID.
Yeah.
You and I talked, the traveling was getting to be monotonous and wearing you down. So that was part of your routine, and that's been eliminated.
Yeah, it's been eliminated. So if we were still doing that, I probably would have said that. But since I haven't been on a plane in 6 months, I haven't been on a plane 6 months, man, because COVID just said, no, that's okay. You're not going on a plane.
That's right.
We're going to keep you home.
That's right. And we're going to get into that because we're going to talk about how work has changed through that. That's going to be something we're going to dive in later. But so what's the best piece of advice you've ever been given?
You know what? I just shared it. One of the best pieces. Now, I've been given lots of great advice, but God really blessed me years ago. And this is the reason I'm saying it so quickly because it's fresh. I just talked to someone about this about a half hour ago. And I had a chance to meet a man by the name of Earl Stafford. Now, this is interesting how we met because I'm an entrepreneur. You know what I mean? I always tell people I'm in marketplace ministry. So let's bring some clarity to this. Just as a business owner, as a Christian, my work is work, but it's ministry. And so, but I saw this article of this man in USA Today, and it was something about him, man, very successful, very highly successful business owner. I said, I got to meet this guy. And so, I did everything I could to try to meet him. I called and I sent letters. I kept getting ignored. And I always tell people, you got to be persistent. So I didn't let that stop me. And I kept sending letters and all. And it was strange because 3 months later, I get a ring in my office at 6 a.m. I pick up the phone and it was this guy. His name is Earl Stafford. And this is what he said to me, Darrell. He said, I wanted to see if you were serious.
Hey.
And that's something. He said, he calls me, he said, if I'd have called you at 8 and you're just walking in the door, I said, this guy is not serious about business. But being there, he don't realize I don't normally arrive at 6. But thank God, God had me there that day. But I went down to his office and I met with him, and he shared something with me that changed my life I'm talking about forever as it relates. Now, first thing I found out that he was a child of God. You know what I mean? He told me that, Darrell, if Jesus Christ is not the CEO of your business, don't be in business. If he's not the chairman of your board, don't be in business. That blessed me because this man had a $500 million business. And I'm like, wow, for him to say that. But then he said something to me. He said, you see this. He said, you recognize me because of what I accomplished. And I was in the paper and things like that. He said, but let me tell you something. He said, young man, and don't forget this. He said, most people fall in love with the dream. They can talk about the dream. They can articulate the dream. They can get around all their friends and communicate the dream. He said, young man, let me tell you something. When it comes to achievement, and he said, it is very much scripturally based. He said, young man, don't fall in love with the dream. Fall in love with the process.
Wow.
That is because it's the process that takes you to the dream. And he said, most people love the dream and hate the process. I never forgot that. Never, ever. So I realize now when God calls me, I'm building something now that, we're doing with this Global Joseph initiative, and it's process now, but I know where God is taking us with this. So guess what? I'm enjoying the process.
Right. Well, that's great advice, man.
Yeah.
Because listen, I mean, I think, we there's so much to learn in the journey, right? And my wife Kim, and she'll talk to me, and tell me, she's told me in the past, and I've learned from it. It's taken me a while. She would just say, "Can you just be present? Enjoy the moment, because you're always thinking about the next thing, the next thing, the next thing, and that's what you do. I do that, because you're always forward thinking, and there's nothing wrong with that. That's healthy, but sometimes I think we miss the present, and I think there's just so many people, like you said, they want the end result without going through the journey. And the journey may be painful to get in there, but there's a lot to learn, through that preparation process. But the only way you can enjoy that journey is to be present in the moment. Am I correct?
Yeah. And understanding what that present in the moment means to the journey, like to that end result. Nothing wrong with the end result, because it's nice to have dreams and goals, but understanding the beauty. I'm an old ball player. I was a linebacker, in high school and college, and I tell your audience, I was pretty good too. Not as good as G Cobb was, but anyway, you're good. But anyway, our mutual friend G Cobb, Rob knows the reference point.
Oh yeah,
and
absolutely.
He used to play for the Eagles. But I remember, man, all that training, all that weightlifting, running those hills, man. We used to run. Our coach loved hills, and we would always be in our full pads running hills and doing the what do you call it? They call it the death crawl thing. You're on your foot, you crawling around and you doing all this, and you're like, why am I out here at 85, 190 degrees, going through all of this, but you get up every day, you go through camp, you push it and you process, and then comes the first game. And you put that uniform on, man. Brand new spanking, brand new uniform, man. Your new helmet is shiny, and I was captain my senior year of college. And so you walk out on the field and you got your troops behind you, man. And the audience and the fans are screaming and hollering. And you look up and said, that's what that time was for.
There you go.
Right? So it may be painful, it may be challenging, but it grows your character, man. It grows you as a person when you can go through this process. Like you said, be present in the moment, be patient in the moment, knowing that, from a believer's perspective, that God has this thing in control.
Amen.
We don't have to overexert ourselves. God has the control. We just need to be diligent and consistent. Diligently consistent. Yeah.
That's very good, man. That's very good.
Yeah.
So now I want to take a little bit of time, just kind of, I know you, like I said, I want the audience to know you a little bit. So these guys can learn about your background, your family life. So could you share a little bit about yourself, your family?
Yeah.
Because I know your family, all of you guys you're gifted with many abilities, all of you, man. I mean, you could talk on and on. Every time we get on the phone, we talk about, our kids and stuff like that. And your family has such a servant heart as well. So maybe you could just kind of quickly expand on some of those key points.
Yeah. I always tell people, if you want to have talented, gifted, smart kids, marry a gifted, smart woman. And so I'm blessed to have married a beautiful woman who we just celebrated 26 years of marriage. And I'll tell you, of all the accomplishments, that's one of the greatest. I mean, because
Amen to that.
marriages are dismantled nowadays and totally, and I'll tell you something, man, you know, we talk about process, right? A lot of people quit in the process and don't know that there's this end result, man. And it's a beautiful thing. You know what I mean? So you stay the course and do it God's way, and you have hiccups and things like that. So a lot of what we are today is a byproduct of that, I believe, that decision. You know what I mean? The Bible says, he that findeth the right findeth a good thing. And listen to this, and obtains the favor of the Lord.
Right.
And so that's some powerful scripture there. But my wife and I met many, many years ago in youth ministry. I was a youth pastor, and she was in youth ministry. And that's how we connected and helping kids. And, you know, we've always been into motivating and inspiring people. You know, back then, that's what we were doing, motivating and inspiring these kids. And then we fell in love and then, you know, got married and had 4 kids of our own. I don't want to go the long version of the story, but as you know, my wife and I told it was medically impossible to have children. But we prayed to God, and we called our children's names out by name and age order. You know what I mean? Where we literally went into our basement and held hands every day, calling out each child in name and age order. You know, Darrell Jr., Sophia Olivia,
Wow.
Alexander Joshua. And all the doctors are saying, I'm sure you're a great man of faith. I'm sure, you know, and I think this is important to share. I think I need to share this, Rob, because I think this is going to bless some people. And so everybody's saying, no, it's not possible. You know, you need to just adopt. And, you know, just that's what they were saying. And so I said, God, you know, so we prayed, and for a year straight, we prayed every day, calling those names out: Darrell Jr., Sophia Olivia, Alexander Joshua. And then during Christmas, I said, I got to take another step of faith. And so I went out and I purchased a pack and play. I purchased a crib. I purchased clothes for the baby boy, because I knew Darrell was coming first. Got a little Eagles football, because I knew he's going to be Eagles fan. You know, and we set up a room. My wife wasn't pregnant. Listen what I'm saying. My wife wasn't pregnant. We walked by faith and not by sight.
Amen.
And so we went to praying again. People come by our house. Didn't know Pam was pregnant. By faith she is. Y'all got a room. By faith she is.
There you go.
By faith she is. Faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. So we went to praying for almost another year. And then one day, I come home from a church board meeting. We had a church called the Bounding Grace Family Worship Center. Back in the old days of the screensavers, go up to my office because I got home really late. My wife was asleep. I look on my screensaver on my computer, and there was something that scrolled across that said, "Congratulations, honey. In less than 9 months, you're going to be a father."
Wow.
Brother, don't tell me what God can't do, man.
That's right.
Darrell first. Now, then God put us on the extended version 4 years later, Sophia Olivia. Same the age order. And then 11 months after that, here comes Alexander Joshua. He said, that's the rapid version. And then to put a cherry on the top of all of this, God did allow us to adopt the most beautiful little girl you ever want to see, Abigail Jubilee Andrews. Let me tell you something, brother. Of all the things I've done, I've traveled all over this world. As a speaker and trainer, I've stood on stages for some of the largest corporations on the planet and presented literally, I mean, Fortune 500s, governments inviting us in to consult and work with them and share some ideas and thoughts, schools and school districts, and countless young people. Of all of those things that we've done, authored several books, writing 3 more as we speak, all those things, that's the greatest success of my life right there.
Amen.
That is the greatest success of my life. Nothing I can do externally will ever compare to what God did for us in that situation. Because guess what? I can tell people every day I get to look at 4 miracles.
That's right.
I get to see miracles. People are believing for miracles. I live with them. And so I'm saying that because, and I want that to be the thing that people know the most. I mean, personally, I'm a consultant, speaker, and trainer. I go in and I work with organizations doing motivational programs, but we also do consulting around team synergy. Right now, a big thing is equity and inclusion. We do things around that. We do some general employee motivation, teamwork, you know, organizational culture. Then we do a lot of general motivational type things with schools and school districts and governments and all of that. You know, I've been a bunch of books and things like that, but and we, with some personal coaching where we're doing coaching of individuals just trying to achieve goals and dreams and all these different things. But I always want to point to that because those are nice things to do. And we've changed a lot of lives, millions of lives, probably when you include speaking and training and all the different things over the years.
Right.
But man, when I wake up in the morning, that's what I thank God for every day.
Amen.
That's what I thank God for every day. And my family is my jewel. My like you said, we have gifted children. My oldest son just graduated from one of the top art schools in the United States of America, Ringling College of Art and Design in Sarasota, Florida. We raised all of our children based upon their passions, the gift that God gave them. We never wanted them to pursue things we thought that they should do. You're going to be a lawyer. You're going to be a doctor. No, you're going to be what God told you to be. And so we observed them and watched their affinities. And so my son was art. Now he's degreed from what people call the Harvard of art. Really, it's just that's how powerful his school is. My daughter is a freshman at American University. She's on what's called a global scholar, one of 25 kids selected for that the university recognizes kids who can have global impact. At the age of 14, she started a nonprofit organization to help orphans in Nairobi, Kenya. At the age of 16, she spent 3 months over there as a special education teacher. And she's been back and forth to Nairobi 10 times since she's 14. As a family, we go spend the entire month on the missions field in December in Nairobi to work with the kids because of the seed of a 14-year-old.
That's something, man.
Of a 14-year-old. And then my son, Alexander, he's 17 now. He wants to go to the Naval Academy or West Point. He wants to go into politics. And his thing was this. He said, Dad, the greatest political leaders are the ones who serve their country first. I want to serve my country, give everything I got there. And he said, then go off and serve our country in the realm of politics. He's a big historian. So he's going to, and so that's him. And then my baby Abigail, she's 10. She just turned 10. Her only purpose in life is to hug daddy when he walks through the door. I said, yeah, that's your only gifting.
Nothing wrong with that. Hey,
yeah. There you go.
Now, man, because then they get those, teenage years are kind of just pushing away, but they always come back.
Yeah, always come back. Always come back. Oh, listen, I got teens in my house. But they do come back. And but the thing is the seed you plant in them. Yeah. And if you have good, your children are phenomenal, and mine are too, man, because we planted those seeds. Amen. You know what I mean? And that's a parent's job. So that's my family. That's me, man. Probably a little bit of the elongated version, but I love the Lord, man, with all my heart and soul. Everything I do is really designed to bring glory to Him. I always tell people, and we started this Global Joseph initiative. Our marketplace is where the greatest ministry can take place, man. Oh, yeah. And I heard the statistic that every week 60 million people go to church, and every week 190 million people go to the workplace. Yeah, that's fertile ground. And so I just believe that even when I'm on stage and I come off, I'm witnessing. When I'm talking to folks and they say, how did you do that? I'm witnessing. So just want to use my life as a witness, man, all the time.
This is good, man. I'm glad. I'm going to focus on this area of family a little bit more because, we've had episodes and we'll get into it, when we talk to guys, tell guys about their passion, their purpose, not submitting to idols and sitting idle as well, so, but this area of family is so huge. So, and it's an important part of your life, and the impact is evident based on what you just shared, and how involved you are in creating change in the communities locally and globally, like you're talking about Sophia, helping out the So what was your family life when you're growing up? Was it a positive environment for you? Yeah. And based on your experience, whether they be positive or negative, what was the driving force for you? Why you're so supportive, encouraging to your family as they seek their God-given dreams?
Yeah, well, that's a great question, Rob. My life was different than my kids. It very much different. I was raised in, city of Syracuse, New York. And, for whatever reason, my mom and dad separated many, many years ago. And so my mom pretty much had the lion's share of raising, my brother and I. And so my world was different in the sense of, I'll say this, there were a lot of good people around us. You know what I mean? I lived in poverty. There was a lot of challenges with that, but But I will say in the midst of all of that, because I think it's important, because a lot of the time when people hear poverty, they think violence, and they think,
Sure.
no, they were very good people, man. I mean, kind-hearted, always looking out for you, willing to support you, encourage you, and things like that. And I had them all around me. So in that sense, it was very positive in the midst of a lot of poverty. Matter of fact, I always tell people, folks are a little kinder back then than they are today. I said,
Believe that.
oh my goodness, man. I see back then we were smiling and laughing. Now everybody frowning. You can't say anything. It's like, so in many ways, I kind of miss those days, you know.
Oh yeah.
But that was my world, you know. Unfortunately, we had a lot of good people, men around, but there were a lot of men that just didn't take the whole thing of fatherhood that seriously. And let me say this to their defense, all right, because this is important when you share this, because it's easy just to immediately discount those guys. They had situations that caused them to be the way that they were. Like, I'll never forget my father. My brother, I told my brother one time, I want to go back home and just spend time with dad, because we really hadn't spent a lot of time with him and, you know, together collectively, because my dad remarried and has 3 additional kids in his second marriage. And we just didn't really spend much time with him. So we drove up and spent the day with him, man. I had breakfast and lunch. It was so cool just hanging out with him and all. We had never really done that before. And he said to us, he said, I just want to let you boys know something. He said, I'm sorry for what I did to you guys, but my dad did that to me. So I just kind of reproduced what happened to me. And he said, I am so sorry. And that was the first time in many years I was able to say, wow, okay, it's not just the dad that don't want to be there. He was just kind of following suit to what he was exposed to. So I just wanted to mention that, because a lot of times we want to be hard on men, but we need to go a little deeper and find out what's the wounds that man is dealing with.
There you go.
Because a lot of times people don't want to do things. They do it because that's all they know. You know what I mean? Or that's what they were exposed to, and nobody gave them new information.
Right.
So I grew up in that world, you know, and so as I would see so many young men and so many young ladies that were trying to struggle and grapple with life and didn't really have anybody to go to kind of like learn those things that they needed, I said, man, when my time to become a dad, I'm going to be a father, man. I'm going to be a husband. I'm going to be a dad. I'm going to be there for my kids. And I made a pact with my other cousin, one of my cousins, that we would do it together. And I'm going to tell you, man, I was just committed, because I knew, you know, that if that child has a father in their lives, man, what that does for their life, man, when the child has a dad. And I said, man, so when I met my wife, you know, I shared with her, well, I didn't meet my wife. She was a friend. She's my wife now. You know? I didn't meet her and she was my wife.
Well, hey, man, you're just speaking out on faith.
There you go. You know, when we started dating, I told her how serious family was to me. Yeah. And thank God at that time, I did have a lot of positive role models around me. A lot of people who helped show me the way. One I want to give credit to is a pastor by the name of Harry Jones in Media, Pennsylvania, who was a family man who really taught me those little intricate details of family that I didn't know about, not just through words, but through example. So I was able to watch his life and watch how he interacted with his children. And there was another guy who you know, Pastor Gary Dudley.
Oh, yeah.
And watch how Pastor Gary and his wife did things. These are men that became like my mantle when it comes to family. Man, I could look at them and, you know, benefit from them. So I grew up in a challenged world in the sense there was a lot of disconnect relationally as far as marriages, but it was a great world as far as love and compassion. But we didn't have a lot of dads that were in their lives, like, you know, really into them. And I said, I just want to be that kind of dad. So that's what kind of motivated me, Rob, to say, when my time comes, I'm going to be that man to my children that I always wanted, you know, for someone to be for me, you know, and that kind of motivated me to stay the course all these years.
I tell you, and it's huge, because you said something in there that was key to me. And this is not a knock on our fathers. We're not saying that.
No, it's not.
But you know, you said something about, you know, we can't blame the man who's in the present totally. Right. You know, I mean, what was he exposed to?
What was the story?
Right. What was the story behind it? You know, did he have the father figure that we all hoped for? Did he just have a bad influence of men all around him? You know, yep. And you know, just for me, you know, as I was growing up, you know, childhood was great. You know what I mean? My dad wasn't really involved into the things I was into, you know, sports wise. It just wasn't his thing. You know what I mean? I didn't have that. Fortunately, I had brothers to help me along the way, and then of course coaches and everything like that help me in that area. But one thing that it did teach me is that I want to be that for my son. I want to support him. What you said earlier, and it goes for my daughter as well. But I'm trying to speak to the young man, because that's what this is all about, men. But to my kids in general, I mean, I wanted to be there for them.
Yeah.
Maybe not in ways that my dad could have been there for me or should have been there for me. But here's the thing. Now, as I pass that torch to my son, I want him to be more of a man than I am right now. I want him to. It's like passing that baton. And say, okay, I want this mile. Now you go that extra mile. And that's the whole point about the generational growth that we're trying to establish, right? As kingdom men. This is what we're doing. We're kingdom building, and the way we do that is to invest into that next generation in hopes that next generation invest even more. Am I correct on that?
And that's scriptural. I mean, I think it's the book of Exodus or Deuteronomy where it talks about to the third and fourth generation. Like you really, and you think about even in the Old Testament, it was always so-and-so begat so-and-so, so-and-so begat so-and-so, so-and-so begat so-and-so. It was a lot of begats. You know what I mean? Like you were saying, from Abraham to, it was like, okay, you go on the lineage, and so-and-so was 14 generations, and from Noah to, you're just going down to 15. They did everything generationally because the Bible is clear on the impact of generations. And so this is not a subject that's talked about enough, though, because we tend to live in the moment. And we think the moment defines everything. No, this is a season. Ecclesiastes is very clear about that. To everything, there's a season and a time to every purpose under heaven. So the thing we want to know as men is we got to realize we are in our season now.
That's right.
But we're preparing another season. And that's the season that our children are going to live in their season. And so we can't be so overly consumed with where we are and all of that. We need to start thinking, what are seeds that we're sowing that's going to go for that next generation to be able to run. I got to say this, years ago, I took my son, Darrell, to a men's retreat. And we got a father-son retreat. And there was a guy named Doug Phillips, I think his name was. And we were at this event, man. And he said something that was so amazing to me. He said he knew about his family legacy back 1,000 years. In my mind, I was thinking, my goodness. Wow. But his family kept it going from generation to generation. And this is a man of God, and I said, man, that's really how it should be. Imagine your kids knowing what happened back in, 1683 or whatever. I'm just throwing that out there, in your family. Most of us can't go back a generation or two.
No,
because we don't share, we don't keep it going. So I think as men, we got to understand how important the generational impact of our lives are, because we're just really a part of a biblical, spiritual building block for the next generation.
Yeah. And, I want to expand on that because we can't make excuses. It's easy to make an excuse and say, well, this is just how I was raised. So, and tap, kind of tap out and say, that's it. No, we have to be, almost like a pioneer in our own families. In a way, you know what I mean? We have to set that new course. Mm-hmm. And that's the hope of what we have, not only for our kids, but for our grandkids, right? Yeah. We have to. I'll tell you, it reminds me. Here's a great story. I know this is kind of shifted a different way, but this to me is so important that we need to really talk about this and the importance of family and men. Dr. Tony Evans talked about his life growing up. I don't know if you heard that story. But it's important for men to hear it. His dad was not a good father starting out, right? His dad and his mother had a horrible relationship starting out. And I interviewed Jonathan Evans on this, and he expands on this as well. Yeah. And then his dad came to know Christ, right? And his dad worked long hours, and his dad the only time he could read the Bible was like at midnight on, and then basically get ready to go to work the next day, right? His wife would come down and heckle him and just kind of pound him, just beat him. He could have just tapped out and said, you know what, this ain't worth it. But he stayed the course. And then one day, his wife walked downstairs and says, you read that Bible every day. What's so valuable in there that I'm missing? So he began to share the gospel with her. And then she came to know Christ.
Yeah.
And now look what happened. Tony then, because his dad was a pioneer, set a new course. Let's put it this way. He redirected his legacy.
Yeah, it did.
You know what I mean? We're all building a legacy, whether it be positive or negative, we're building one. And he redirected his legacy. And now Tony's in ministry, Priscilla's in ministry, Jonathan's in ministry, Anthony's in ministry, all because one man decided to set a new course.
It's amazing.
Isn't that amazing? So it's not too late for us as men to set that new course.
And listen, what's beautiful about that message, that ain't the perfect scenario. Like, it's not like his dad did all these good things.
Right.
And, he just sat down and read the Bible. I mean, but his son caught that.
Yes.
His son caught that. So what I'm getting from what you're saying, and it's always good for all of us men to hear this, it's not the big things we do, it's the little things.
That's right.
A lot of times we think it's the big stuff. The fact that he consistently sat down and read that Bible was little.
Yeah.
But his son saw that.
Yeah.
And it impacted him. So I'm saying that because men, sometimes we think we got to do so many great things, like with our kids. And sometimes we got to do all these great things and great this and great that.
Right.
No. One other thing I got from what you just said too, and this is important, Rob, is consistency.
There you go.
Being consistent.
That's right.
We can't be all over the place.
We can't.
You know what I mean? Whatever, when reading that word, doing devotions with our families, whatever it may be, we got to be consistent. And men, we can make so many excuses for not. Work is, too many hours at work, or this is going on and that's going on. But guess what else is going on? Time.
Yeah.
Moving on.
Yeah.
And you're going to want to look back and say, oh, I wish I would have. No, now is the time. Because keep in mind, we're talking about generational building here. This is the season that we have. Like, I got 2 pretty much out the door now with Sophia and 2 in.
Yeah.
Them seasons, yours are out now. You know what I mean? Yours are, you know what I mean? Zach is just moved. I mean, so that season is over.
Right.
So the seeds that you planted are going to be the things that's going to be, I just said this thing the other day, and you may have seen me post, it was on Facebook. I says, our lives are like a book. All right. And everything we do and everything we say are the chapters. Then I said this, and I said, and that book will be the instruction manual that our children will read to live their lives. Wow. I don't know. It's just something now and then God will drop stuff in me, and I just felt compelled to say that. So we're creating an instruction manual.
Yeah. Yeah.
As men.
We are, and as Zach got into his new house, as we were talking about that, I think about all the years, the time I wasted, and this was a generational thing. I just got to share this story. For me, is that my time with my dad, he taught me some things, with tools and things like that, but he really didn't teach me a whole lot with that, like woodworking. He taught me the things he loved, you know what I mean? And he loved woodworking. Man, my dad could do some amazing things. Even at 87, the stuff he can build is amazing.
Right.
All right. So I got a little bit into woodworking, and he taught me some things, but when it came to the other things, how to do electric, plumbing, things like that, I never really learned that. I had to learn that on my own, or my brother taught me, that kind of thing. And if I wanted to learn things, my dad would be like, okay, here. And then he'd be like, nah, I got it. Let me, that kind of thing.
Yeah. Yep.
I found myself doing that, Darrell, where I'm like, it's easier for me just to do it. Right.
Yeah.
And that was wrong. And even Kim would tell me, like, you can't do that. I know you like to cut the grass a certain way, but he's helping you out. Don't go out there and re-mow it in front of him when he's done. Because I've done that.
Yeah.
Wrong thing to do.
That angle off a little bit, but
but what I found out, since he's got his house, the things I didn't get to teach him, I'm teaching him.
Yeah.
Now I'm allowing, he's doing on his own with me watching him. So I'm saying this by the grace of God. He hasn't shut that door on me to where I still have teaching moments.
Yeah, man.
We're having these teaching moments that I didn't, that I wasn't as productive or proactive, I should say, as I should have been in the past. So,
but I'll say this to you though, Rob. But the greatest gift you give him. I'm just gonna say this as your brother, and I don't want all the men out here to hear this. You didn't give him how to mow lawn, or you didn't give him, how to fix it. Because I still don't know how to fix things. I'm just
sorry, man.
my son Alexander said when he was 8 years old, he said, my dad is a speaker dad, not a fixer dad. his bike broke with his friend, man. And his friend said, go get your dad to fix it. He said, my dad's a speaker dad. Now to fix your dad.
That's great. That's great.
And guess what I had to do? I had to go fix that bike. I said, well, I'm more than a speaker dad. But you know what you gave him was your presence.
Mm.
And we can't underestimate how powerful that is.
Amen.
You were there for him. You know what I mean? You were a father to him. And all those other things, I get it, because I'm always thinking, oh, I wish I would have done this with my child or done that with my child. Because that's just what we loving dads do, because we love our children.
Yeah.
But man, we were fathers, man. We I saw all those pictures of you guys at Eagles games, and I was like, yes, because that's the greatest team in America. So I was like, look at my man and his son, and that father's, he was always right there with you. And when they won the Super Bowl, I saw him jumping on the furniture, and
crazy.
Come on, man. Those are moments, man. Those are priceless. So I want dads to know we may drop it in certain areas, but we fathers and take great pride in that, man.
There you go.
Because that's a gift that you're giving your child.
Yeah.
And something I do a lot, man, when I kind of feel like, man, I could have done this better, that better. I sit down and I start writing down all the things we did. You know what I mean? And sometimes I can be up at like 50 things, like, wow, we did all of that, man, I start realizing we did a lot together. We did a lot of great things together, a lot of fun things, a lot of, biblical things and studies. And you start realizing you've done way more than you could ever imagine. So I just want to encourage my brothers out there, man.
Yeah.
That man, we yes, there's things we could have done better, but man, we were there. Yeah. And that's a blessing within itself.
That's right. And what we call it is building memories. I remember a coworker's mom shared at one time. She said, I was over there. I used to live on this estate in Delaware where I worked. And then, I remember having lunch with a couple of one of my coworkers and her husband. And I remember the mother was there one time, and she was just talking about, she was showing pictures, I think, or something like that, or whatever. She said, we're just building memories over here, building memories. And that kind of always stuck with me. Wow, that's what we're doing. We're building memories. And look, I don't want to make this all about, just our sons. It's important for us as dad, probably more important in how our relationship is with our daughters, and kind of, for me, and I want you to expand a little bit about the importance of that too, Darrell, but I want to talk a little bit about our daughters, for those guys who are saying, well, that's cool, you're talking about your sons, but we're talking about children as a whole. But here's what we can do with our daughters. For me, it was always important to date my daughter.
Yep.
And we would go out on date one-on-one. I'm talking about one-on-one. We would go out, have dinner. I'd let her pick, where you want to go. Well, back in those days, it was not, Dad, I want to go to Boston Market, or I want to go to McDonald's, or, easy stuff. As they get older, they want to, step up the game a little bit more, but that's okay. Not that my daughter has real rich taste by no means, but it's funny though, even though she's married now, she'll remind me once in a while, Dad, when are we going to go out on a date again?
There it is. There it is.
So that's always stuck, So I want you just to take a moment about the importance of daughters, raising a daughters, and what practical steps have you done, or currently are doing, with your daughters to ensure that you're being that fatherly influence that you hope for them to seek that into their husbands. Yeah,
you know what, man. With daughters, the big thing with daughters, I always look at my girls, and I always like to have a lot of moments with them. You know what I mean? Like from when they were little, I would always put music on in the house, and I would say, stand on my feet, and then we'd do the dancing while they're on my feet, man, and that was from when my daughter Sophia, who's now 18, and my daughter Abby. And I just can think of all the times we would dance just around the house, because you hear grown women saying they never dance with their dads, or their dads never hugged them. And I said, I want my girls to think that, that dad, I don't want that to be their narrative. You know what I mean? I want them to have moments with dad. They can remember, Dad used to dance with me all the time. It's funny, like my oldest daughter Sophia says, see, Dad, you hug all the time. You're always trying to give me a kiss on the cheek. I said, baby, until you be 90 years old and I'll be 130, I'm still going to be doing it, because I know now she's saying that, but in her heart, you know what she's really saying? Dad, please keep doing that.
That's right.
Dad, please keep doing it. Sometimes, like, as she got a little older, one time she said, I don't like hugging as much as I used to, Dad. And you always want to hug and all that. And I said, okay, good. Let me give you a hug. Dad, but I just told you Dad, I just told you I don't like hugging. Well, no, she's telling me she wants a hug.
Mhm.
See, we got to realize something. Now, we don't want to invade space, and we want to show respect, but you got to understand the heart of your child. You know, I always, just like you, made it a priority to do dates. You know what I mean? We'd have, every year there was father-daughter dances, every year for that. But then there were just dates, going out on a dinner date, just, going to have breakfast. Like my daughter and I both like breakfast. So we find a little breakfast place, and both my daughters, and we go and just have breakfast together. And we're talking about a whole lot of things. Now, this is another thing. This is for dads. Dads need to hold their breath for this one, because this is important. You got to get into what they're into. Okay. It can't always be about what you into. You got to. So, like, I'm gonna say this quietly. Like, I've never really been into musicals.
Oh, you and me both, man. I'll keep it real. Music drive me crazy. I'm gonna let you finish, but like as a side note, I would go to the musical. Like Three Doll Bakers used to do musicals all the time.
Yep.
They're acting, and all of a sudden now the guy's got to start singing. Like, what's this all about? You know what I mean? So I get you, my man. Yeah.
Oh man, and you sitting there like, oh, yes, I really love you. But my daughters love them, man. They love musicals. They love Hamilton, like the thing. Hamilton.
Yeah. That was actually pretty good, man. I have to admit, I did see that. That was actually.
Yeah, well, I'm gonna say this. My daughter always would say, Dad, I was Hamilton. She just wouldn't say much, just Hamilton, Hamilton, Hamilton. She knew all the songs. She would sing all the songs. And I said, you know what? This would be a memory of a lifetime for her.
Oh, yeah.
And I went online and I purchased tickets for my daughter and my wife to see Hamilton.
Mm.
And I didn't tell her anything. I just said, we're going to go out to dinner. And then we started driving. She said, this is a long dinner drive. And on the way up to New York, I put the tickets out, take a look at this. And she just was done, man. And that's a memory. You know what I mean? That we'll have. And I love that show too, man. You know what I mean? Oh my goodness. I love
that. Off track, but it was, I'm not in the musicals, but what impressed me is it's like it's like a poem through the whole thing, or they rap through the whole thing. It's like,
oh my goodness. It was incredible. It was incredible. It was incredible, man. Yeah. And so you looked at that and you say, man, but the point being, that's her space. Now, let me say this. She just went off to college. All right. She got her own place now. Her school is closed, but she wanted to be down there because she thought being home, doing online school at home would be tough, because she wanted to be close to the school to have access, because the schools are closed due to COVID. So she has some roommates. She's doing great, man. But I'm going to tell you what I did. All right. And this is not to put out there all of our business, but I think this is important for a dad. I said, I had to do something for my daughter that could be a memorial for her as she gets ready to depart from our home, because she's been there all her life.
Yeah.
So I told my wife, I said, I'm going to schedule time for us to go to a nice restaurant in Philadelphia. And I just want to have a heart-to-heart with her. So I scheduled a time, a date night. We went up there. I went to the jewelry store and I bought this beautiful, it was like a, not super expensive, but a gold and diamond heart pendant, and then I wrote her this letter, just all the things from a dad, wisdom from a dad, but just also love from a dad, how much I love her. And I shared with her that, I hadn't given her a pendant, but I said, in the letter, I said this, I talked about giving her this heart. And I said, one day you'll be able to, dad's gone, you're always going to have dad's heart. But one day I'm going to take it, I'm going to hand it over, your heart, to somebody else. I'm going to hand it over to somebody else. And then that person will have your heart. But I said, on your way to school, I want to give you my heart. And I want you to keep my heart with you on that college campus. And man, this is a girl that don't cry. You can see the tears coming down her eyes. I took that pendant out and I gave it to her. And I basically, said in that letter, just how much I love her, how much of an amazing daughter she's been, how much I just want to be a dad for her. And I asked her permission that before anyone has any interest to contact me and let me talk to this person. See, you don't just assume your children should do that stuff. You got to ask them when they get older, I want your permission to do this, because I know I have nothing but love for you. And I want to make sure that anybody has any interest in you is going to have the same thing. And so it just was like a bunch of agreements. But the point being, that established something with she and I. Now, it's not ending there. She's close enough where I said, well, once a month, I just want to come down for breakfast or dinner. And so I'm picking the time every month and I'm going down. Why? As a father, that's what you should do.
Right.
You see, You got to be present. Even when your children are out the door, be present in their lives. And I'm going to tell you something, man. We've always had a good relationship, but I believe that moment defined it even more so, Rob. And you can sense it in her. It's definitely moved me. But that's what as a dad, these are the things that fathers need to do. We got to give our girls moments that they'll remember for a lifetime. Let me say this in a joking way, and it's nothing against our boys. You can write a letter and give it to your boy. He may lose it next week. It might be like within an hour, like that. Where's that letter again?
But I can't say about my son that he does. Yeah. He has a very soft heart regarding that. But I hear what you're saying, man.
Yeah, I know what you're saying, and I'm just joking, of course, But those daughters will keep that for the rest of their lives.
Oh, absolutely.
My wife still has her father's letters from college.
Wow.
My wife graduated from college back in 1990, and he passed away right after she graduated. But she still has every single letter. Exactly. So we dads play a significant role in a girl's life, but we can't do it from a distance.
Yeah.
We have, we can't do the man thing with girls. We got to soften up and let them know we love them. So
and
that's
this is a perfect transition to what we're going to talk about next, because everything you just shared there is huge. Because I think as men, we have the tendency, well, and I ain't gonna lie. I mean, we don't like to allow ourselves to be vulnerable, and I think that is the essence of one of the biggest problems in having that relationship, to get rid of the as we discussed about the legacy that your fathers have left in the lives of dads past, that they're passing on those negative impacts to the next generation because they didn't allow themselves to be vulnerable to another man, right? And it's important to have that the accountability so that we can allow ourselves. Our kids need to see us to be vulnerable, because if we have this stern exterior, then it shows, particularly our men, our young boys, that that's the way I got to be. That's what it means to be a man, is to be tough and hey, get up, dust it off. You know what I mean? Shake it off, suck it up, that kind of thing. And there's a time and a place for that. You know what I mean? As men, but there's also a time where you just have to allow yourself to say, hey, son, I failed here. This is where this is where I've gotten weak. This is where right. So I want you to expand on that, because I know I want you to share your heart about the ministry, I should say the fellowship that you have in Dads United that has helped you in regards to accountability in your life as well as the life of other men, so that they can make sure that they are providing for their children best positive influence, godly influence that could ever be passed on.
But before I say share Dads United, I want to share a quick story. Just take about a minute or so. But there's a great basketball player. Her name is Pat Summitt. She used to be the coach of the University of Tennessee. And at the time, she recently deceased, but at the time, she was the greatest basketball coach in history. Won all kinds of championships at Tennessee. And they showed a video of her one time where her dad came. He was older at the time. And he came and he looked her in the eyes and he just gave her a big hug. And this big, stern, really aggressive kind of a coach just melted, man. She melted. And then she said this. She said, I've been waiting for that hug all my life.
Wow.
She said, I'll give away all these trophies for that. Man, let me tell you something. We dads don't realize, man. Could you imagine her? She was in tears, full-blown tears, because her dad gave her a hug. That was the first one he ever gave her.
Wow.
All them trophies, all those accolades, and no hug from dad. And so we fathers play such a significant role. So with that being said, years ago, I came home from work and I saw my wife really struggling. We homeschool our children. And my wife was really struggling with the kids, man. It was one of the really tough days. And I saw it weigh on her. And I said, man, she shouldn't take all this on by herself. I said, okay, what can we do? And I prayed about it. And I said, okay, she can handle the education because she does that well, but character is mine. That's mine. And so I contacted several of my friends and said, listen, man, your wives are probably in similar situations to mine. They're doing their best. They're putting energy into helping the kids and can probably use some assistance. Let's start this thing. I want to start something called Dads United for biblical-based character. And then we just cut it back to Dads United. I want to get together every month. I want each dad to speak into the lives of all of our children a character trait, biblical base, and prepare a lesson. So when we first started out, we had 7 or 8 men. We're down to like 6 now. 2 of them are no longer with it. But for 10 years, we've been doing that.
That's amazing, man.
10 years. Every single month, man. And these kids have gotten lessons on everything. I mean, you think about it, scripture based, studies of different biblical characters, but they've also learned finances. They've learned character of courage and self-determination, all from dads. All from dads. And one of our biggest beliefs in the group was this: our kids don't have one dad, they have several dads.
There you go.
And so each dad sort of took on the accountability of each person's kid. So if my son was having a challenge, he can go to any one of the dads, and that dad would take him to lunch. Or if my daughter needed somebody to talk to, she can go to any one of the dads, and vice versa. So we created a community of fatherhood. And my thing was simply this. It's sad to say this, but most kids don't really even have access to one dad. Our kids had access to several.
That's amazing.
And I'm gonna tell you something. You look at the pattern of what has happened to all these kids since they've grown. Most of them are now at the point where they're older and not really, they're gone off. Each one of those kids, it's amazing what they're doing in their lives. Each one of them, the character that they're displaying. I went to my son's college, and the dean of students said he's the most respectful young man on his campus, by far. And he said, what did you and your wife do to this child? I said, it wasn't just me and my wife. It was a group we have. I mentioned Dads United. And I said, then my wife and I. And I said, but the reality of the fact is we taught him character. And so, again, not trying to heap a ton of responsibilities on the brethren, and what I'm talking about wasn't rocket science. We were talking about once a month for 3 hours, because we would meet and we hang out, then we eat in fellowship. There's always food involved, because when men get together, we got to eat. but you got to get some grub in there. And the kids kind of enjoyed that too. They were like, hurry up and get to the message. But because we had that fellowship. But the point I'm making is, Dads United, and any brother can do this. It's not difficult. It's just a system in which you bring together the brethren, several of your brothers. You don't want a lot of people, because you want a smaller group, and you come together with the commitment to fatherhood. Someone teaches and instructs, and whoever hosts, they're the host. The meals are prepared and everything else. Sometimes we would contribute to it all, but the reality is each father. So now my kids are not just hearing from me, they're hearing from that dad.
Yeah.
And sometimes our kids need that. They need to hear from other dads. They need to hear from other people, not just from us. And so thanks for allowing me to share that, because I take great pride in joining that group. All our kids are getting older now, so we're kind of seeing like we're waning off a little bit. But the foundation of what was established for our children through this ministry is when you talk about a memorial, this is a memorial.
Well, you planted seeds, man. And I tell you, every time you talk about Dads United, I mean, it blew me away, because I ain't gonna lie, man, I'm kind of envious. I mean, I'm jealous of it, I should say, in one way, and in a good way, because I wish I knew you when I was younger, so I could have been in that group or been closer to be part of that group, that kind of thing. And it just never really worked out. But I had guys around me, you know what I mean? Like, we done that, and it does take a village to raise a child.
It does, man.
It does. There's some things you can tell your kid.
Yeah.
They don't want to hear it, and it just they go on deaf ears. But if somebody else tells them,
they're geniuses.
Dad, did you hear what he said? You know what I mean?
Yeah, like, wow, that's really smart. I said that 3 weeks ago, but that's really smart.
Hey, look, I'm guilty of that in my own house, because sometimes my wife will tell me that. Well, I've been telling you that for a while, but you had to hear it from somebody else. You know what I mean? So
you're not alone.
And she's right.
Yeah.
Look, we're getting ready to wrap this up, man. I can't believe we've already been talking for an hour, and we could go on for a while, man. And I love it. But I want to close this out. I got 2 questions left.
Sure.
It's important for men to hear this, because, the purpose of this podcast is to interview men who are having an impact in the Christian arena, just like yourself,
Yeah, thank you.
And having that impact and that sphere of influence that you have. So what would you say to the guy? Because I know there's somebody out there who's listening who says, you know what, I hear you, my legacy hasn't been so good. And, but I think it's too late, or my purpose, I didn't quite meet it, but I'm getting older now. It's too late it's too late to correct that. Or my relationship with my child, it's always been bad. You know what I mean? They're not going to listen to me now. They easily want to throw in a towel, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of like we talked about with Pat Summit, you know what I mean? She could have easily just, pushed back on her dad, but she allowed him to come to her. And her father could easily said, you know what, it's too late. I damaged her life. You know what I mean? I'm not going to run out on the court and give her a hug. You know what I mean? What's that going to do?
Mm-hmm.
I want you to kind of expand on that, what your thoughts are as we're getting ready to wrap up.
Well, I just want to say to that father, man, first of all and foremost, not to come with a quick solution, but listen, man, I get it. You know what I mean? I get it. I always tell people, manhood it takes work to do this. This is not something that just falls in your lap and you just have this perfect. We don't have a manual for this. We make so many mistakes. And I just want to show compassion for that brother, because just like I said about my dad, he told me I didn't know, and I come to the realization some people just don't know, man. They don't. It's not like they're bad people. They just don't know.
Right.
And so to that brother, I want to say, man, I'm sorry that happened to you. And you're hearing a lot of good come from me and Rob, but we can also equally sit there and tell you some of the bad too, because we haven't been perfect fathers. We made some mistakes too. But what I want to say to you, God is a God of second chances. He is a God of second chances. And the thing we have to do in order for that second chance to become a reality, we have to humble ourselves. And that's the big part. Humble ourselves and pray and ask God for clarity on what should I do to connect with this person. Now, here's the thing. Don't be surprised if it's met with resistance.
Sure.
Don't be shocked by it. If you haven't really interacted with a child and there's a disconnect and you reach out and they all of a sudden act like, I'm not interested, you say, that's fine. But for now, but then you come back later and say, you know what? I just want a chance. Give me some time. Right. If it's your daughter and she's not talking, send her some flowers and say, I know I've been a mess. I know I haven't done well. Honey, I just want to make it up. I do. We're both, I'm alive. You're here. I just want to be what I should have been a long time ago. Haven't been, but I want to let you know I'm changing. And I'm telling you, people's hearts start to soften when they see effort. But what happens with men, because we got to be careful with this pride thing. When it doesn't happen immediately, we say, well, it's not going to happen anyway. That's not true. I mean, all the things that were struggles for me to have turned around in my life has been a result of my heart. So me just I don't want to say dying to self, but saying, you know what, I'm going to do what God would want me to do, not what my mind will want me to do. Not what I may be feeling the way I've always done things.
Right.
You know what I mean? My children and I have been doing a study on 1 Corinthians. And there's so much in chapter 13. And there's so much in there, man. And boy, that takes work to do all that. Love is patient. Love is kind. Love is long suffering, man. You start thinking about that. Whoa. But this is the part I want us to get, and I'll conclude my piece with this one. We got to go down that scripture and look at I think it's around verses 10 or 11, where it says, when I was a child, I thought like a child and I acted like a child. But when I became a man, I put off childish ways. I just want to say to my brethren out there, isn't it interesting that 1 Corinthians 13 talks about love and it ends in manhood?
Wow. Wow. That's very good.
And so what it's trying to say to us is, in order to do that, you got to do that. And that takes dying to self to some extent, getting rid of the pride that goeth before destruction. But Rod, that's a good revelation right there. Think about all those scriptures, and it leads to manhood.
Yeah.
What is God saying to us? It takes a man to do that. So, brother,
I'm telling you, man. I mean, I read that scripture 1,000 times. I never even saw it that way. And it and I think that's the biggest thing as we're getting ready to close, for men, is it goes back to being vulnerable. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because to do those things, to be patient, to be kind, there's two things. It's vulnerability and humility.
Humility. Yep.
You know what I mean? Both of which define character.
Big time.
Godly character. You know what I mean? It's not about, oh, I can't allow my feelings get hurt and hide it. Or, I'm a tough guy. I express my anger and did it, no, it's about surrender. And surrender takes vulnerability and humility, and that defines character. I tell you, my man.
Let me say this real quick, Rob.
Yeah.
I'm gonna give an example of humility.
Sure.
So I've been doing these devotions with my kids. And so part of my doing these devotions, I'm looking at the times we're living in. And I'm like, oh God, I don't want my children to be subject to this. So my devotions have really gotten really kind of preachy, kind of I'm teaching to what I don't want you to do, And so I'm laying in bed with my wife the other day, and she did it with such humility and such gentleness. She said, "Can I talk to you about the devotions with the kids?" I said, "Sure." I didn't know what was about to come next. I was like, "Sure." She said, "Is it possible for you to think about maybe doing a flip open and pick up scripture and just like let them kind of be involved with you?" She said, "Because it seems like your teaching now is more directive." And you can tell by the way, she said, by the way they responded, they're not responding. They're just kind of there listening. She said, and I think they would be more receptive if they were included. And it wasn't about, don't, be careful of doing this and be careful of doing that. Now, the man in me could have said, well, at least I'm teaching, at least I'm doing the devotion.
Right.
What man, most men don't even do devotions.
That's right.
But the man in me, according to 1 Corinthians chapter 13, had to humble himself. I thought about it and I said, you know what, sweetheart, you're right.
Yeah.
I have been. In my quest to protect my children, I've gotten too overboard with trying to make it directive.
Yeah.
So guess what? I'm changing my devotions because she's spot on. That's humility.
That is humility. It's humility on her part, humility on your part, because because I think as men, it's easy to get defensive in that moment.
Yeah.
Well, I'm doing something. Don't tell me how to teach. And then they'll try to pull out scripture somewhere else saying, I'm the man of the household. And so it's just like, no. Sometimes that's one part where we talk about there's a time and a place to suck it up. That's when you suck it up. Take it. And there's wisdom behind that.
Yeah, man.
And there's, our wives receive a lot of wisdom that a lot of men can make their life a lot more easier.
Yeah.
Relationships if they would listen to their wife. Man,
I'm gonna tell you something. If they love you, man, the wisdom that they have is over the top. My wife shares things with me that's been life transformative for me. But I had to listen. I hadn't always listened, but when I did, it always produced fruit. Always. It's amazing.
Always fruit, man. So, and that's a subject for another day, man. And I'm going to have you back on because I think it's important that we do talk about marriage.
Oh, man. Yeah.
We talked about family today, but I want to have you back on another day if that's all right with you.
Oh, man, anytime. Yes. Yeah.
We're gonna talk about marriage and kind of expand on that and the importance of that and what does a godly marriage look like. So,
yes, sir.
Oh man, I enjoyed this conversation. You gave me a lot
of
wisdom, a lot of insight, but I want to give you an opportunity now to kind of share with you as we close. Like, how can men connect with you?
Yeah.
Courses you provide. If they wanted to reach out to you, if they had a question, what's the best way they can contact you?
Well, a couple of things. If you're a man that's interested in marketplace ministry, I immediately want you to take a look at the Global Joseph Initiative. And what we have it set up there is on Facebook. So if you look at the Global Joseph Initiative on Facebook, just like that page and follow it, because we're going to be putting a lot of regular information out there. We believe that the greatest work today is in the marketplace. I was told, I'm on the board of Sandy Cove Ministries. And the president, Stephen Weaver, and I had lunch one day, and he said that Billy Graham said on his deathbed, the next phase of Christian impact is in the marketplace. And so I would encourage brothers to go there. It's not going to just be all marketplace stuff. There's going to be some stuff like what we're talking about now, but definitely look at the Global Joseph. God has given me a vision to create Joseph-like impact in the world in which we live. So that's the first thing. Secondly, what we talked about with Dads United and all that stuff, I'm willing to just have a conversation with any brother that wants to do something of that nature. Just go to my website, coachdspeaks.com, coachdspeaks.com, and go to the contact us page. Say, hey, I heard you on the Resolute Men podcast. would love to just chat with you about your Dad United. Give me a number and the best time to call. I'll call, man. I just will share my heart with you on that. And then also, we do a lot of ministry. Both you and I do a lot of ministry work and get invited out to speak, on issues like manhood and, like, for me, business and all of that. So if there's ever an interest in maybe doing some ministry work, you can always reach me at the website as well. And we just do this because of the love of God that's in our heart. No other reason whatsoever. And been actively involved with doing ministry work now for about 18 years. So, man, I just want to say to you, thank you, man, for allowing, first of all, for being obedient to Christ to do this. I've loved watching your journey, because I remember you talking about certain things you were going to do, and to see those things fall into place, man. You are, you're the name you have, Resolute Men. You exemplify that, man. You stand strong, and you're a great example of what you teach. And I'm just honored to be your brother and a part of it, man. And I look forward to the next interview, but I also look forward to our next conversation, which probably could be tomorrow. We always talk to each other.
And Darrell, I want to thank you for taking the time to be on here. You are the real deal. And I want to brag on Darrell a little bit as we close out, because this is a story in itself, and we can go on forever about this, and I'm not, but just the way we got connected, just through a simple phone call. I reached out to you as I was starting a conference. I found your name through Sandy Cove, and how that journey began for us. You know what I mean? It became more than just ministry partners, which are important, but it defined a friendship, a brotherhood that I cherish more than doing conferences and things like that, which I so enjoy doing with you. That friendship can never be replaced by just doing things together where we serve together, which is important, but just the way we serve each other, you know what I mean, in relationship. And that's how God designed us, is for those relationships, and just not the part of the works oriented, which is important to do in ministry. But the relationship is the key element that God's designed us with Him, and He's designed us for each other. And as men, we need those authentic relationships that we tend to ignore. And I'll always cherish that, my man, And
same here, my friend. I want to say this too. I think this is important as we wrap it up, because I just want to say this one point, because something you said is so important, especially men who are submitted to Christ. We have to have those relationships.
Yes, we do.
And what I love about you, know more about me than a lot of people on a personal level. And we need to have people in our lives that we can be candid with. One of the tricks of the enemy is to put a man up on a pedestal, and he starts to live by the pedestal. He can't be honest. He can't be, I got all these people looking at me, and all these people know, man. A lot of brothers fall in ministry because they don't have anybody they can be real with.
Amen.
You need to be real with each other and have somebody. You can't be real with everybody because you're not called to, but you got to have somebody in your life, you know what I mean, that can, in many cases, even intercept some foolishness because you got somebody to talk to. So I don't want to elaborate and prolong that. We can talk about that another time, but that's beautiful to have somebody in your life that you can call and say, man, I'm struggling with this, or I have this going on. Brother, pray with me. You know what I mean? And so I think when that leads us to the scripture where it says a friend sticketh closer than a brother.
That's right.
To have that person that you can. So I'm just saying that to the brothers out there who may be in ministry, don't go it alone. Have somebody in your life that you can talk to. Rob is one of those people in my life, and I'm so grateful for that, brother. Trust me. It's a blessing.
Too, man. Yeah, we can't be Lone Ranger Christians. And I think, you know what, we're going to do one on accountability too. We'll discuss that as another day.
Oh, man, I'm ready, man. You know that.
Well, Darrell, man, I thank you, my friend, for being on the Resolute Warrior podcast. It's always a pleasure, and God bless.
God bless you.
You can connect with Resolute Men on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, and LinkedIn. Men, stay focused and determined. Fight the good fight. Live for something bigger than yourself. And be a resolute warrior.